I'm wearing a hat because it's faster than fixing my hair, which is a travesty right now. But, sorry. But I wanted to make another video. I wanted to make a book video because I've just been in a very book mood lately. Wait, actually, hang on. It's like 6:30 at night. I'm halfway through my Starbucks drink. And I've got a random book tag that I found on the internet by searching book tag. So let's get going. This one that I'm doing, why do I feel like I'm so out of breath? Breathe. Okay. This one I'm doing is called the 20 Questions book tag by paperfury.com. So hats off to you. I'm not actually taking my hat off. So let's just get started. Question number 1. How many books are too many for a series? I don't think there's an answer to that question. I don't care. I don't care. I don't think there can be too many for a series, depending on the series. Like, the Mortal Instruments has what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just in the main, like, Mortal Instruments, it's got 7, and that's fine. So, Harry Potter, it's 7. You know, I feel like a lot of authors feel like they have to try to stay with, like, that trilogy or duology, like, set, but honestly, as long as it's not feeling, as long as the pace isn't too fast or too slow, who cares? Question 2, how do you feel, oh wait, 1 second. My dog needs water. Just like your house plants, make sure you water your dog on a regular basis. Okay, question 2. How do you feel about cliffhangers? I am looking at you, Rick Riordan, with your Mark of Athena ending. I'm looking at you. Okay. If this is like, I guess this question's more on me, because if I wait until the whole series is finished and then I read the whole series, so that, you know, I read the book with the cliffhanger, but then I immediately can start the next one, I don't care. But if I have to, like with Mark of Athena, read that, it has a cliffhanger, and then I have to wait like a year or 2 before I get any kind of resolution, I don't like it. At all. Question 3, hardcover or paperback? I actually don't have a preference, except the only, I still feel like I'm out of breath. Keep it together, bitch. Callie. This is why I shouldn't make videos sitting on the floor. I actually don't have a preference. The only thing that really matters is if I don't really have a preference for hardback versus paperback. The only thing that I try to do is if I start a series in one, I try to finish it. So, like, what's an example? The Vampire Academy up there. I got the first one in a paperback, so I would want all of them to be in paperback. Rick Riordan, I don't have the original series, like the Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Those are in paperback, but all the others are in hardback. Obviously, I can't always do this, like the Mortal Instruments. The first 5 are in paperback, and the last 2 are in hardback. The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, same thing. The first 2 are in paperback, the last 2 are in hardback. It's just something like, if I can help it, I do try to make it the same. But I really don't care either way. Favorite book? Okay, and I love how this blog post, like, calls itself out, because she even is like, no, I'm gonna have a list. Well, I guess let me go get them real quick. Let me search real quick. Okay. All right. No, yeah, I want to add that one. Okay, so these are a list of my favorite books, and I do have to say right off the bat, honorable mention goes to Harry Potter. I feel like Harry Potter would be in anyone's, or most anyone's favorite list, as long as we can separate the art from the artist. I think, I didn't mean to go off on a PSA about this, but I think I should be able to sit here and still be able to say that Harry Potter holds a special place in my heart, while also saying I don't condone some of the things the author has done. In this situation, separating the art from the artist is probably in your best.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
It's probably the best thing you can do. That random PSA over. Some of my favorite books. These are in absolutely no order. But let's just go. The Wicker King by Kay Ancrum. I really like this. I really like the visual elements of it. I really like the two main characters and the story that this tells. Weirdly enough, this is giving me, oh, how could I forget that one? Hang on, I forgot another one. I can't believe I forgot this one. This one, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alir Sands, sorry. It's a favorite. I love the audiobook. If you want to listen to the audiobook, I definitely recommend it. The Wicker King definitely reminded me of this in a lot of ways. And I think that's mainly just because it's primarily about two best friends who become more than friends. And it's just, there's not really a plot. It's just the two friends kind of living their life. But these are the first two. They're very similar. I love this one, love the audiobook. I would rank this one a little higher than this one. I mean, obviously, look at all the awards it's won. It deserves every single one. But I love both of these. Beautiful Creatures by Kami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. This with a caveat, I do have to say I've only read this first one in the series. I haven't read the rest of the series, but I absolutely love this first book. It's really good. I don't like the movie because they completely changed the ending. But I read this in 2 days before, and she a thick bitch. So next is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I love forensic psychology. I love crime dramas like Criminal Minds. Love that shit. I eat it up. This is basically that, but in book form, in YA book form. It even says it on the top of the thing. It's Criminal Minds for the YA world. Boom. Enough said, moving on. Haha, Foxhole Court by Nora Sakovic. I don't know that I can say much more about this, considering I've made 3 full videos about this series. Ow. I love this series so much. Does it have its issues and problems? Yes. But I would argue that that is kind of the point, because what else do you expect to happen about a book whose main premise is a sports team composed of people from bad past, broken homes that need a new start? There's gonna be some trigger warning stuff in there, because there's just going to be. This is probably the most trigger warning heavy book I've ever read, series I've ever read. If you're interested in the trigger warnings, you can look them up. I'm not about to list them all because I would forget a whole bunch. But, and I'm not even a sports person. I'm not the biggest fan of just sports in general, and I absolutely love this series, which is about sports. I said I wasn't going to say much about it, and then I rant about it, rave about it, positively gush about it for minutes on end. Next is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Another one that I absolutely love the audiobook for. Props to the audiobook guy, because he had to do so many accents and he pulls them off, in my opinion. But this is actually one of the few contemporaries that I can stand. I'm not really a big contemporary genre fan, but I really like this one. It's just super cute, super fluffy, very escapist. Like escape. What's it called? Escapism? Escapist? I don't know. I read this in basically one day, and I say basically because I fell asleep. I had work that I read this all in one night, except for like the last 50 pages, and I had to make myself go to bed because I had work the next day. And then as soon as I came home from work, I read like the last 50 pages. So I basically read this in one night. But it's just and okay, if you've read this book, you'll know what I mean. But I was laughing uncontrollably sitting on my couch. The scene where with the turkeys when he convinces his mom to let the turkeys stay in his room, and then he ends up calling Henry and is like, they're gonna kill me in my sleep, and just like their whole conversation, I was dying laughing at like 3 in the morning. I'm sure my neighbors had a grand old time hearing me just cackle like a mad woman. But anyway, next is the Vampire Academy series by Richelle Mead. I absolutely love this. I actually like the movie. My one critique of the movie was that they didn't really have a lot of Dimitri at all. But I can understand why they did that. Like the actor, Danila, I don't know his last name. Like he is a Russian actor, and I think I even heard in an interview that he doesn't speak a lot of English. So they probably tried to compensate for that by minimizing his lines, which on one hand is good because like that's helping him, but on the other hand it did kind of like cut back a lot on him because he's a lot more present in the books. And I love these books. Yes, they're very trope heavy in a way, but they're just also like flipping good. Okay? If you want just like a nice, I mean, okay, I can't even say a nice, light, and fluffy because like the third and fourth book, they're over there. The third and fourth book get kind of deep, man. They get, like the third and fourth book go through loss of a loved one, PTSD, just like all that heavy stuff. They're just good. I'm not gonna defend myself for why I like this series. It's flipping good. My stack just fell over. Okay, moving on. Nevermore by Kelly Craig. Craig? I don't know. This is another one with caveat. I haven't read the other 2 books in the series. I've just read this first one. And I really, really like it. It's really good. It's really atmospheric. And I like the characters. I like the whole point of the whole point of the romance between the characters is like they're opposites because he's a goth and she's like a preppy cheerleader. But what I like about this is they never try to change the other person. They approach their relationship, knowing each other, like their whole thing of like getting to know each other, becoming friends, becoming more than friends. Like they always just accept each other as they are. There's never one scene wherever one of them tries to like belittle or criticize the other person or say you should change this or that. Like they just always accept each other just as is, and I think that's really nice in a story that is essentially just like opposites attract. Next is A Beautiful, Next is A Beautiful Friendship by David Weber. I know David Weber is a pretty popular sci-fi writer, but this is the only book of his I've ever read. Funny story about this, I actually got this because in 8th grade, my English teacher pulled me and like 3 other kids out of class, and she was like, "Hey." So I write for the newspaper, and I know the 4 of you are like the most avid readers at this school. So here's 4 random books. How about you each pick one, read it, write a review, and it might go in the newspaper. And this was the one I ended up with, and I actually really liked it, so I'm really glad that this is the one I got. It's super cool. It's this girl, her and her family moved to a new planet, like that's recently been discovered, so they don't know a lot about like the flora, the fauna, the wildlife, all that jazz. And she wants to like go exploring because she's really likes to just go hiking, be out in wilderness, and her parents are like, no, it's dangerous, we don't know what's out there. Well, then she comes across this guy, which we actually get perspectives of both of them, which is really cool. But he is a six-limbed tree cat, and they meet and they become friends. And the book is kind of like split up into 2 parts. The first part is about them separately like meeting and kind of, you know, becoming friends. And then the second part of the book is about them dealing with the social repercussions of that. Like the second part of the book has to deal with like, you know, reporters wanting to write stories about them and all the like sensationalism it gets and all that, which is actually a really interesting direction to take. It's just a really good book. It is a series, but this is the first book in it, and it can stand alone. So next is Cinder by Marissa Mayer. I really like the series. I feel like, you know, a couple of years ago, this was what was hot and poppin' with the booktube community, so I'm not going to say a lot about it, except I really like the series. I really love the covers, but I will admit that the first book is the weakest link, and for a lot of people that can be a turnoff. Like, I know I've heard some people in the booktube community say that they don't want to have to slog through something to get to the good stuff later on in the series, and I can understand that. I feel you, but I still think it's worth it. Like, I think, like, I've actually told this to, whenever I was recommending the series, I was like, read the first one and then give the second book just like a couple chapters, and if you're still like, this isn't for me, fine, I get you, I feel you, you can put it down, no hard feelings. But I would at least give the second book a chance if you aren't necessarily thrilled by the first one. But I really like that series. I think it's really good. If you're interested at all, I definitely recommend picking it up. Next, Geekerella by Ashley Poston. Okay, so another fun story about this book. A while ago, before I read this book, a book that I read was called This Is What Happy Looks Like by the same person who wrote The Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight, which I actually own that one, Jennifer E. Smith. This Is What Happy Looks Like by Jennifer E. Smith. And I was really hoping for like some miraculous ladybug, double identity confusion, like love square that's only 2 people thing. Didn't get that because, spoiler alert, as soon as they physically meet, like This Is What Happy Looks Like is about 2 people starting up an email relationship, but they don't know, like, real life who they are. Spoiler alert, the first time they physically meet, they figure it out, and I'm like, well, darn. I'm a little disappointed. So if you, like me, I don't know if you read that book and were a little disappointed by that aspect of it, like I was, but let me bring you down. Get closer to me. But if you were, I definitely recommend this one, because this actually has a little bit of that, a smidge. They meet physically, and then it's still like a little while later until they actually figure out who each other is. And it also just has to deal with like fandoms and conventions and unstigmatization of that. And I say that because, I don't know why, but every single like TV show and book that I've read that has tried to talk about fandoms and people, you know, like in the cosplay community, they always make it, the people and the community seem like creepy and weird and out of touch with reality. The only examples that I've seen that have actually like somewhat done it right, Supernatural with Charlie, nailed it out of the park. Phenomenal, amazing, loved it. Got it right in one. Good job, Supernatural. And then the next one would be Castle. But they almost had to because, like, Castle, the character, he was in that community, so they, like, had to. But shows like Bones, I love the show Bones, don't get me wrong, but I will forever be pissed that, like, the one episode that the cosplay community gets, it betrays them in, like, a negative light. So this was a salve, it was a balm, it was a nice warm hug on a snowy, dreary afternoon. And it was just cute and fluffy and light while also like the main character is going through, you know, the loss of her dad, because it's like the Cinderella story, so her dad is dead and she's having to deal with that while also, like, she's also like learning to cope with that through the lens of this convention that he started and this TV show that's kind of like a Star Trek ripoff, but it's okay because I love Star Trek, that they both really enjoyed, and so she kind of learns to embrace that on her own. And it's just really good. It's just really flipping good. The cover's beautiful and amazing, and the book actually, like, has some weight to it, which is weird. Next, this probably won't come as any surprise to you. Oh! Basically anything Rick Riordan has ever touched is amazing. So I picked this one because this is where it all started, baby. This is the money shot. But yeah, literally anything Rick Riordan. Shh, excuse you, I'm talking. Literally anything Rick Riordan has ever touched is just magic, and I love it. Next one, Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. Also, I guess with caveat with this one could be Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. But this one, I do own the second one. I haven't read it yet. And can I just say, like, I almost literally cried whenever I found out that the narrator for the audiobook was narrating the second one. This is another one I highly recommend the audiobook. It's amazing. And yeah, I almost cried whenever I found out that they brought him back to narrate the second book. But I haven't read the second one. I think I am going to wait until the third one comes out, which I think it only comes out like in a few months. Like it comes out before too long, so that I can marathon the whole series, just because I've heard that the second one can get kind of sad, and so I want the third one immediately if things leave on a sad note in the second one. Next, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Bleh. Do I need to say anything about this? Again, this was another one that was just like hot and poppin', you know, a couple years ago whenever it came out. It's really flippin' good, and I love that they colored the spine on both the books. That is just inspired, honestly. Last, The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater, with a caveat that of all, okay, I know I've mentioned audio. Look at me, come here, look in my eyes. Come here, come close, look in my eyes. I know I've talked about audiobooks before, but if there's one audiobook that you take away from this that you must listen to, it is this one. Will Patton, my man, Will Patton does a phenomenal job narrating this series. And again, I almost cried because the spin-off series, Call Down the Hawk, he's narrating that too. So yeah. This is just so atmospheric and character-driven and wonderful. And the characters, the main characters, they're good sometimes, they're bad other times. They care about each other, like just, so yeah. Hey, I just wanted to add 3 books that I wasn't thinking of at the time. Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion, Beastly by Alex Flynn, and Angel Fall by Susan E. Okay, we're only on question 4, and I've been recording for half an hour. Whew, alright, let's go. Question 5, least favorite book. I don't really have, like, a least favorite book, I feel like. I can say that I pretty much know for a fact my least favorite genre is young adult contemporary. I have read a handful of books that are in that genre, and don't really like them. Just, there's always like a weird party scene where people get drunk, and there's always like just a weird amount of like product placement, which just makes me feel kind of icky a little bit. I do have to say, if I had to pick like one book in particular, it might be a book that I didn't even finish because I couldn't, and that was Catcher in the Rye. So, but that's kind of like a weak answer, so take that if you will. Love triangles, yes or no? Hard no. Okay, first off, if you like love triangles, amazing, fantastic. You will be able to enjoy so many books that I cannot. I don't like love triangles because they add unnecessary drama. To me, they kind of belittle the romance that, like, whoever, and it's usually one girl with two guys, and so to me, it usually belittles whatever path the girl ends up taking. It belittles that because it's like, well, she could have chosen this other guy and been just as happy. And also, there's the fact of, more often than not, like 99.999 repeating % of the time, it's so flipping clear who the girl's gonna choose, and that the other guy is just like barely hanging on by a thread. He might get like a pity kiss, or whenever the one that she's really in love with goes away, or is just like not available physically or emotionally, then she'll go to guy number 2. But it's usually so clear that, like, who she's gonna pick. The only book I have ever read that I actually liked the love triangle for was Talon by Julie, last name starts with a K. And I liked the love triangle in there because, one, it made sense, because if you didn't know, Talon is about dragons, and so dragons can shapeshift to look like humans. So the girl, she kind of starts falling for 2 guys, because one of them, a human, appeals to her human side, and then one of them, another dragon, appears to her dragon side. Like, that logistically, to me at least, makes sense as to why she could start falling for both of them. And also, I've only read the first book in the series, but within that first book, to me, I couldn't explicitly tell who she was going to end up with. Like, you know, and normally in books, even if it's not apparent who the girl's gonna end up with, usually you as the reader pick one guy and you're like, okay, this one. I flip-flopped so much in that book. I changed my opinion based on who she was interacting with, which I feel like is A, really hard to do, and B, the only time I've ever like had that experience with love triangles. So that's the only one that I ever like remotely will sign off on. All the others, there's the door. Goodbye. The most recent book you couldn't finish. I don't think, aside from audiobooks, that I've physically read a book to completion since I graduated college last December. But if this is talking about like books that I DNF'd, I haven't explicitly DNF'd a book recently. I've just kind of like started reading one and then gotten distracted by something else. Let me think for a second. Maybe Deposing Nathan, but it's over there. I'm not gonna go get it. Here's a picture of it here. That was like a soft DNF. Like, I will try to read it again. It's just, it's another contemporary that I have to prepare myself for. But, okay. A book you're currently reading. Let me go get it, because it's in my room. I am currently reading Raven by Kami Garcia, the same woman who wrote Beautiful Creatures, and illustrated by Gabrielle Piccolo. Look at this. It's so beautiful. But this is pretty much the only thing I have open at the moment. Last book you recommended to someone. That would be probably Cinder, actually. Because I work like 1 day a week. I work at a bookstore, and I'm pretty close with the other lady that kind of like manages it. And so we talk about books sometimes. And we ended up talking about Cinder for a while, and I recommended that, and I kind of gave her the same spiel about the first book that I gave y'all. I also really recommended The Raven Cycle. Like, I recommend that to her every chance I can get, because I know she kind of sometimes likes those young adult fantasies. So yeah, probably those two. Okay, oldest book you've read by publication date. Probably Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. It's like one of the only classics I've ever actually read and finished. So, newest book you've read by publication date. Well, do I have to have finished it? That's the question, because if not, then maybe this one. Or I've also read the first few chapters of Crave by Tracy Wolff, because it seems like a nice, just little kind of dark academia boarding school with vampires, and there's a brooding bad boy love interest, so like very much a guilty pleasure book. But if we're talking about one that I actually have finished, again, I haven't finished a book that wasn't an audiobook in a really long time. I just keep buying books and then not reading them. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna skip this one just because I haven't read to completion a new release in a hot minute. So, favorite author. Well, Rick Riordan, obviously I've gushed about him enough in this video. Jeez. See, because I want this to be different than just like what my favorite books were, because I feel like in order for it to classify as a favorite author, that means that I would be willing to blindly read anything that they wrote simply because they wrote it. I mean, kind of Holly Black, like she's definitely found her niche of like fairy books. I really like her books. The Darkest Part of the Forest, The Cruel Prince. I say that because I haven't read the other two books, but I'm going in that series, but I'm going to. And then like Spiderwick Chronicles. Like I will like I have the audiobooks to those, and I basically fall asleep listening to those every night. Maggie Stiefvater, obviously. Yeah. I'll just say I'll just say those two. Buying books or borrowing books? Buying them, because I am a possessive bitch who does not like to give these back. Like, I feel like we've kind of established that, I feel like we've kind of established that I'm a bit of a book collector bordering on hoarder. So yes, definitely buying, because I am possessive. A book you dislike that everyone seems to love. Oh geez, I feel like I know this. Okay, I'm going to turn and look at the camera first. I'm going to say one, but again, with a caveat, I have not finished it. Autobiography by Christina Lauren. I was really excited to read this because it seemed like a good kind of mix of like fangirl meets like some other thing. I don't know. I don't know if it was just the writing style or if it's the fact that like the characters, because it's like a romance, if they like kind of start getting together like a third the way through the book. Oh, no, I know what it is. It's the fact that I don't like insta-love, and that's basically what happens here, because when I tell you that the main character becomes borderline creepily obsessed with the romantic interest the second he sees said romantic interest, like, I'm talking, you know, it's in a classroom because main character is a student and then romantic interest is like the TA. So when I'm saying that, like, he's sitting there minding his own business and the second RI, walks through the door, the main character becomes, like, almost creepily, in my opinion at least, obsessed and it just kind of made me feel a little icky. And if you like the book, great, awesome. I probably will try reading it again, but I'm just gonna have to prepare myself. But absolutely no offense meant if you like the book, because if you like the book, great. I hope I do too at some point. Bookmarks or dog ears? Bookmarks, don't dog ear your books. You ruin them. Why would you want to like bend? Like, people will go out of their way to avoid bending their books, and you're gonna purposefully, like, why? Why? A book that you can always reread. I'm gonna give some examples of books that I have constantly reread. So, number 1, Are We Surprised? Number 2, number 3, where's number 4? Number 4, also this one. But if, just to add some fresh blood to this, I'm gonna also show you some ones that weren't in my favorite books list. So, also, Lockwood and Co. by Jonathan Stroud. I've only read the first 2 books in the series, and I think it's going to be a 5-book series. I do want to wait until I know for sure all books are out, and then I definitely want to marathon them. It's just so good. Teenage ghost hunting in London. It's got the atmosphere, it's got sarcasm and wit. It's really good. East by Edith Peto. And also, I'm going to include this one, Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. I'm saying these both together because they're both retellings of Beauty and the Beast, but they're very different atmospheric-wise. So if you want one that's a bit more like poetic and kind of almost like meditative and just like slow and atmospheric and kind of more gentle, I would recommend this one. If you want one that's a lot more sarcastic, wit, with the main characters like kind of acknowledging that they're kind of bad people, and this one definitely is a little more like, I don't know, I don't want to say like hot and heavy because there's never anything explicit that happens in here. Like the one time that they actually like get together, it's very much a fade to black, but it just has the like overall feel of a little more like hot and heavy. Go for this one. They're both really great. They're both really good. So yeah. Matched by Alec Condell. I read this series for the first time in middle school. I still think it's really good. I really respect that the third one did what I haven't seen a lot of dystopians do, which is show the day in and day out life after a rebellion, because I feel like a lot of dystopian books, they kind of gloss over that. Like the one that comes to mind, Divergent, you know, they overthrow the government and then, whoops, epilogue 2 years later. Like, they don't show the, like, messy interim of, like, trying to get things back in order. This one does. Legend by Marie Lu. I've only read Legend. I haven't read Prodigy or Champion, but I do own them. I really like this one. I really like the 2 main characters. I think it's pretty great. And then Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. Another audiobook I highly recommend. Can you read while listening to music? Yes, I can, because the music almost kind of becomes white noise that helps me tune out the rest of the world. And sometimes the music just like coincidentally becomes the perfect music for whatever scene you're reading, and that's just a very great time to be alive. One POV or multiple, I don't care. Yeah, I really don't care either way as long as it's done well. Like the one complaint I have for the Mortal Instruments is that it is multiple POVs, and sometimes you really have to be paying attention to catch it. So as long as it's pretty clearly marked, and as long as the voices are nice and distinct enough that they don't feel like just the same voice, I'm good with either. Do you read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? Usually over multiple days. It's very rare that I read one in one sitting. That doesn't happen a lot. I'm not just one that can sit down and like, yeah, it's usually dispersed out over a while, not just one sitting. Who do you tag? Oh yeah, I forgot that's a part of the tag. Who do you tag? Anyone and everyone that wants to do this. I don't see the point in having to be tagged to do a tag, even though I know that's like the whole flipping point. So, blanket tag for if anyone wants to do this. So, yep, that was this. That was this. I don't know what this is anymore, but I will leave the questions in the description box below. So, feel free to leave your answers to the questions in the comments below, because I would very much like to know what your answers are. So I am sitting surrounded by books and a dog that wants to play. So I gotta go do that. So I will see y'all